Make the Social Security Administration more efficient? That's impossible. Hi, I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this episode of Right Angle is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, we see a lot of hand-wringing and caterwauling lately where people are concerned that somehow Grandma is going to lose her Social Security because the Trump administration is making efforts to whittle down the Social Security Administration to the essence of what needs to be done for the customers that it actually serves. Trump has been more vocal than most Republican candidates for president over the years in saying that he would protect people's Social Security benefits. He believes people paid into that. People should receive the benefit out of it. But Stephen Green, buried in a story that I saw in the Wall Street Journal about the cuts to staffing at the Social Security Administration were these numbers. And some of this just really blew my mind. About 70 million people get checks each month from the Social Security Administration. Those are both Social Security retirement benefits and the disability benefits. Staffing was at a peak of about 68,000 people working for that agency in 2010, and now it's on its way down to around 55, perhaps 50,000 people. On March 31st, they made the announcement, or actually they made the announcement in advance, but starting on March 31st, the Social Security Administration said that there would be no phone calls anymore for people who were filing for first-time Social Security benefits or for people who wanted to change their direct deposit information. All of that had to be done either online or in person at an office. They said they wanted to do this to reduce the risk of fraud that is apparently more likely to happen over the phone. And Steve, that DOGE plans call for reducing the number of field offices by 50 from the 1,200 field offices that there are now for the Social Security Administration.
And 50 is all they're going to cut?
They're just going to cut 50. Yeah, this is a devastating thing, Steve. So anyway, here's a little stat that's fun. Imagine if you had to call Social Security. It says roughly 47% of the 250,000 people who call Social Security's 800 number on an average day have gotten through to a representative this year. That's down from nearly 60% in 2024. The average wait time for a callback is 2 hours. Now, Steve, when I read this, see, I suffer from the debility of having worked in small and large businesses for most of my life. And if I saw these kind of statistics, I would wonder how this organization is still in business. Steve, why is the conversation so much about cut, and not about people realizing that this is a hidebound organization that is mired in its own bureaucracy, that has antiquated ways of doing business, and for whom an announcement in the year 2025 that we're going online with stuff instead of dialing up the phone, I facetiously say. Why is this such a radical concept that Social Security Administration should at least keep pace with the mediocre businesses in our economy right now?
Well, it's a matter of incentives. Let me give you an example from the private sector. So let's say you want to buy a new Mac. I'm looking at maybe getting a Mac Mini. And if I call up Apple, their sales line, I get a person like that ready to take my money and sell me a computer. I walk into the Apple store, same thing, man. They're going to get a human being face-to-face to help sell me that computer ASAP. Now, once I've bought the computer, let's say I don't understand something or something's gone wrong with a software update or whatever, and I have to call tech support. Well, we've all called tech support a time or two, and we all know how aggravating that can be. You got to get through phone menus. You got to wait. Maybe you set up a chat and hope that goes quicker. And the difference between the tech support and the sale is in between. They got your money. What they wanted was your money. So they're really, really good. They're really, really quick at doing the part where they get the money from you. But once they have it, they're not going to put the same sort of speed and finance into tech support as they are in generating the initial sale. Well, with government, they get your money whether you want to give it to them or not. it comes out of your paycheck. The IRS comes knocking on your door if you're an independent contractor like I am. They're going to get your money, and they may or may not provide any national defense for that money. They may or may not fill any potholes in the highway for that money. Whatever it is, they don't care. They got the money. Now they will reluctantly provide the agreed upon services, or at least the services you thought they had agreed to, and that's where we are with this. I'd just like to say that let me ask you a question. The grandmother who's going to lose her Social Security money that they're always talking about on the news shows, is she real? And the reason I ask this is nobody's talking about making any cuts to real people. People with a non-duplicated Social Security number, people who are living and breathing, people who have lived in this country and paid into the system. So if grandma is real, if grandma is not an illegal alien who's figured out a way to scam the system and is actually a 23-year-old dude from Venezuela, none of these people are going to get any cuts. What we're trying to do, what Trump is trying to do, I should say, what Doge is trying to do, is to eliminate this waste, because every dollar you spend that is going to somebody who shouldn't get it is a dollar that can't go to somebody who should get it.
I have to push back against Steve on this one for a second. Steve, you cold-hearted bastard.
I'm a son of a bitch.
Most of the people who are not able to get a hold of the system are grandmothers who are 160, 170, 180 years old.
They don't have time to wait.
It's hard to lift the phone.
They don't have access. The amount of internet access available to 180-year-olds in this country is shameful and shocking, and I find it brutally heartless of you to put that enormous demographic, which has been getting regular Social Security payments for quite a long time now, on the rocks
for
without
80, 90 years now. And that SOB Elon Musk is trying to eliminate the call centers so he can put them on their Starlink and make them pay for that.
Bastard.
So, Bill Whittle, the headline that attracted my attention in the Wall Street Journal was that dealing with Social Security, meaning that organization, the administration, is going from bad to worse. So apparently we were okay with bad, but worse, now that's worse. And so I did a little bit of historical research, and I said, have any previous administrations, because they're making it sound like it's all, it's Donald Trump came in and then all of a sudden everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And I was able to pull up a list of popular protests and complaints in the media going back to the Reagan administration through Obama and Bush and Clinton, all the way back to Reagan, of people raising the alarm that Social Security services were being cut because of this, that, or the other kind of government reorganization, restructuring, budget cutbacks, or whatever. And it seems like we hear this with every new administration as they try to rein in this gigantic, soon-to-be illiquid monster, that nobody is looking at this as if this were a real, like a company that ran a 401k funds or something. If you said, hey, by the way, things are going pretty good now, we'll be out of money in the 2030s, but right now things are going really good. They would bring in a new CEO. They may have to bring in a whole new board of directors. Those people would get pushed out because they have run this institution into the ground. Would you, like me, like to hear more from the Trump administration about treating it, after all, we elected a businessman, about treating this as a business that provides efficient and excellent service to its customers, not just about the part where we say we're going to cut these jobs and save this money?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we talked about that on Steve's episode this week, too, where we were talking about some of the ridiculous spending that the government does. We have all these 130, 140-year-old recipients on Social Security. So as you pointed out, I think on the last show as well, those are resources that are going someplace. They're going into somebody's pocket illegally. It's just being stolen. To say that you're going to cut Social Security is important to cut the waste, but when you are making the cuts, you should be making the Social Security experience better for the user, which is the American citizen who paid into it in the first place. Social Security is different than any other government program, specifically, and feels different, and people have a different emotional reaction to it because they were sold this bill that basically said, we're going to take a portion of your paycheck extra, and we're going to put it into a lockbox where no one can touch it, and then you get it back when it's time for you to retire. So people look at Social Security as if it's their money, because it is their money, but what they don't often do is they don't look at all the rest of it as their money too. So yes, I had to go to get a duplicate Medicare card because I was 65 last year and I'll be 66 in a week. And I had to try to get that on the telephone, and they said, no, you need to go down to the Social Security office. So I had to take 45 minutes to drive myself down there. And when I got there, the office was filled with people, but they were not taking they were not letting anybody in. You had to make an appointment, and you had to make an appointment on the phone, but I couldn't get to them on the phone because so I simply couldn't get it, right? I mean, just couldn't get it. This is the worst of all worlds, isn't it? Where you pay through the nose to get crummy service. I mean, isn't that what we should be fighting against? We have a government that has some legitimate purposes, and those purposes should be budgeted at the minimum reasonable amount to get that goods or services provided at a reasonable cost without fraud. But we should also expect that the government would provide us with the kind of service that we would get just about anywhere else. And of course, needless to say, there's a very simple solution to. Well, not solution. Actually, there may not be a solution. There's an explanation for this, and that is that I don't get to go to another Social Security office with my business. If I did, then the incentive for the Social Security office now would be to hold on to my business. But there isn't an alternative government that I can go to, and so part of this just has to be mandated. In the same way that Donald Trump and Doge are going through the government and cleaning out inefficiencies, I wouldn't mind seeing a Department of Government Effectiveness following in its footsteps, basically saying, now that we've got these budgets down to reasonable size in terms of getting rid of the fraud, how do we improve the user experience for the American citizens who are paying for this product?
There's a problem in government that I saw in my brief life in local governance, and that is that almost all the efforts are poured into, if you picture government as a hose, everybody is focused on the nozzle, not the spigot. And so, it's always like trying to control what's coming out the end of the hose rather than controlling it upstream at the source. And I remember trying to make the argument to my colleagues once on a board of commissioners where I said, look, the way that you control the spending by the executive in this organization is not by telling him how he has to spend money. He's got already some constraints on how he can spend money. The way you control that is not at the nozzle. The way you control it is by going upstream and saying, no, here's how much money you get to spend. Now, you've got freedom to decide how to spend that within the constraints of the law, but this is all you get. And that will force the kinds of changes because he'll have to make those changes. He has no more money, and we had the ability to constrain the purse. And this is what most organizations, when they're going through austerity programs, their ultimate goal isn't just to boost their share price because they're showing themselves to be fiscally responsible. Their ultimate aim, and I'm hoping this is the aim of President Trump and everybody who's working within the Department of Government Efficiency, is that by changing what happens at the spigot, by turning off the spigot, you change what happens at the nozzle. And so people are forced to make adaptations that work more efficiently. And so if you cut back staffing at the Social Security Administration, you say, well, I don't have enough people to answer the phone now to handle 250,000 attempts to make contact a day to the Social Security Administration. Oh, we're going to put that online. Oh, wow. Welcome to 1987. That's very exciting. And so what seems crazy at the government level seems like so natural for businesses. And in fact, anytime I find out that I can deal with a business without having to call them, if they have an efficient, well-organized, easy-to-understand website and I can take care of things online, I would much rather not wait on hold to talk to a human being for something that doesn't require human intervention. It's an algorithmic if this, then that function. And that's all I need to do. So I'm really hoping somebody in DOGE or in the administration is really focused on that idea of saying, when you cut back the money, then you force efficiencies, and then you generate what Bill was talking about, which is effectiveness. And I think ultimately, you decide whether government ought to be involved in this enterprise at all, because if government can't be effective at doing it, then it needs to go to somebody who can. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.